Week 5, Character. Welcome to Week 5 of our online course. In this session, we will be looking at one of my favourite aspects of screenplay writing, character development. Who are your characters? How do they think, feel and act? I've split this session into two parts. Part 1, discovering your character. Part 2, realising your character within your script. This session involves a lot of activities for you to complete and not much talking from me. For the exercises you will need pen and paper, possibly but not crucially an audio recording device. 3. A friend's help. It is safe to say that some films are plot-led and some films are character-led. Firstly, I would like you to read Chapter 3 of Sid Field's book Screenplay. This book is readily available on eBay or Amazon. My copy only cost me 78p. It's fairly old now, but well worth reading if a bit technical and dry. As Sid Field correctly argues, character comes first whether your screenplay is plot-led or character-led. There is little point sitting down to write your outline if you don't know your characters well, but because it will be impossible to ascertain what your character will do or say in any given situation. In past weeks we have talked a lot about the main protagonist, so let's turn our attention to this character by looking again at my initial questions. Who are your characters? How do they think, feel and act? So we are going to do some exploring. For your first exercise, I would like you to select one of your ideas from your portfolio and use your main protagonist from that idea. Next, I would like you to answer the following questions as if you were the main protagonist. 1. What is your name? 2. What is your age? 3. Where were you born? 4. Where did you grow up? 5. Where do you live? 6. What do you do for a living? 7. Who do you live with? 8. Do you have any pets? 9. What is your favourite food? 10. What do you have in your pockets or bag? 11. What music do you like? 12. Who do you look up to? 13. What are your hobbies? 15. What are you afraid of? 16. Who do you love most in the world? 17. What's your ambition? 18. What country would you like to visit the most? 19. What's the worst thing you have done? 20. Who are your best friends? 21. What do you look like? This is what is simply known as a character sheet. Keep it on file and use it every time you are creating a character. The questions are not definitive, so feel free to add your own. Of course, the answers are very important. Writing a script is akin to making a series of decisions, so it is essential that you try to be as clear as possible, avoid answers that are vague or elusive, answer questions honestly and directly. Use the character sheet for when you sit down to write your own scripts. For your second exercise, you will need to borrow a friend. This technique is used by writers and actors and it's called hot seating. In this exercise, you will play your main protagonist and your friend will ask you lots of questions about your character and you reply in character. I recommend spending about 20 minutes hot seating your main protagonist. However, you should know your main protagonist as well as you know a friend. If it takes longer to hot seat your main protagonist, then continue. I've asked you to hot seat because your friend will hopefully ask all sorts of questions that you might not have thought of. So it can be a very useful exercise in expanding and deepening your knowledge of, in this case, your main protagonist. You might find it useful to audio record this exercise and transcribe it later to use as research material for when you sit down to write your script. Once you've completed both exercises, you will have gathered an enormous amount of information and insight into your main protagonist. Much of this information might not appear in your screenplay, but that doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is you need the freedom to write your script. You do not want to be restricted by a lack of knowledge, unsure of whether your main protagonist would do this or do that in whatever situation you are creating. Furthermore, by knowing your main protagonist so well, they will almost lead you through your narrative. They will provide solutions. They will create obstacles. In other words, they will do the thinking for you. I wrote a script in 2008 called In His Shoes about a family dealing with their father's suicide. I got to know those characters so well they became like separate entities that almost existed in their own right. To this day, having long since finished the script, I still miss them. By completing these exercises, you will have explored the interior or inner life of your character. Next, we need to explore how your character's interior self presents on screen. In other words, we are looking at the character's exterior. As Sid Field puts it, action is character. A character does not exist in isolation. Even if they are alone on a desert island or a distant planet, they act and react according to the world around them. As Sid Field puts it, all dramatic characters interact in 3 ways. 1. They experience conflict in achieving their goal. 2. They interact with other characters. 3. They interact with themselves. For your third exercise, we will explore the action of your main protagonist by using 3 scenarios devised using Sid Field's 3 interactions. 1. Your main protagonist is camping in a forest. They must find and cook some food. Write a 500-word descriptive piece. 2. Your main protagonist has a short time to make a birthday cake for their partner. The main protagonist's best friend is supposed to be helping, but disagrees on the methodology. How does your main protagonist try to achieve their goal? Do they achieve their goal? What happens in the end? Write a scene set in the kitchen. I will let you decide how long the scene is. 3. Your main protagonist has hurt their mother's feelings. They are driving to their mother's house to sort things out. As they are driving, they are thinking about what they will say. Please write a monologue of 500 words. So to recap, in the development of your main protagonists, you have completed firstly the character sheet, then you have hot-seated them to establish the inner life of your character, and thirdly, you have put them through 3 different scenarios to explore their exterior life. You should therefore have a pretty clear idea of who your main protagonist is, how they feel and how they act. I hope you enjoyed the exercises. I have learnt these techniques through working on stage plays and working with actors, and I would recommend working with actors in the development of your characters. They often have very useful insights into the integrity of a character. For your 4th exercise, in part 1 of this session, I would like you to ask your main protagonist 4 questions. 1. What do they want? 2. What do they really want? 3. What do they need? 4. What do they really need? Every character, every person has a subconscious and their subconscious drives them through life. By asking your main protagonist what they want and what they really want, you will discover what is genuinely motivating them and influencing their decisions and actions. For example, a coke-fueled Hollywood writer might want to write a really good script, but what they really want is fame and fortune. They might need to pay off all their debts to avoid eviction from their luxury pad, but what they really need is their father's approval. Let's turn our attention back to Citizen Kane. Charles Foster Kane wants to own newspapers, but what he really wants is power. Charles Foster Kane needs adoration and respect from the public. What he really needs is his mother's unconditional love. Now we are really getting to know our main protagonist well, but to check, let's do another exercise. For your 5th exercise, I would like you to consider the following. A character is a person who relates to other people, a person who has their own unique outlook on life, a person who exists within a particular context or setting, an instinctive person, a thinking person, a physical person, a feeling person, a person with a history of experience, limited or wide, a person who has needs, a person who has wants, a person who must survive, just as we are in life. I would like you to use each of the 11 elements I have stated to describe your main protagonist. You can write in first person or third person. Be thorough but be concise. I would also like you to consider how each of the elements forces your character to act in a particular way. For example, if your main protagonist uses a wheelchair in part answer to question 6, then might he be particularly vocal or opinionated? Might he have a chip on his shoulder? Part 2. Realising your character within your script. Let us return now to your idea from which we borrowed your main protagonist for part 1 of this week's session. As I have said many times before, a script is about conflict, and conflict occurs when your main protagonist has a goal, and in their attempt to meet that goal, they encounter ever-increasing obstacles along the way. So now that you know your main protagonist so well, let's put him or her to the test. Exercise 1. Your idea should be at outline stage. You have established what your main protagonist's goal is. For this exercise, I would like you to write a letter written by your main protagonist describing to a friend or family member what happened to them as they tried to achieve their goal and how they thought and felt along the way. I would like to know what happens in the end. Do they achieve their goal, and how do they feel either way? This letter should be 750 words long. Please submit this exercise for comment. By completing this exercise, you will see how your character is active and reactive throughout the story, how they think and feel and act. You will discover by writing your story in outline form, not from your point of view, but from your protagonist's point of view. After all, it's their story. Please take your time with this exercise and submit it for marking. I am not at this stage overly concerned about the structure of the piece. We are concentrating on character this week, not turning points and plot points. So please make your letter as personal to your character as possible. Movie of the week, Vera Drake. Mike Leigh is an exponent of character development and character-led drama. Mike Leigh devises, and this is how he works. 1. He works with actors to create a list of possible characters based on fiction or life. He and the actor select a character from the list. They develop the character and get to know him or her through a series of workshops, observations and improvisations in the rehearsal room and in a real-life context. 4. They establish the theme of the drama born out of the characters. 5. They establish the goals and obstacles for each character and improvise round those goals and obstacles. 6. Then he writes up the script. 7. But he only shows the actors the parts of the script relevant to them. Oh, by the way, I recommend that you complete all the above exercises for all your characters before beginning your screenplay. Portfolio of ideas. Please edit your portfolio of ideas down to your top 3 ideas. Please write a short synopsis detailing how you would realise the project for my comment.